Motor riding. In the motorcycle world, when you think of black and orange, well, KTM is the one that comes to mind. In my book, it means keeping this motorcycle, but the actual meaning is this.
Kraftfahrzeuge Trunkenpolz-Mattichhofen.
Whatever the hell that means. This is the KTM 390 Duke. The category for motorcyclists has never been more congested than it is today. With such a wide range of bikes to choose from, it can be a bit daunting. But any rider would be hard-pressed to find one more well-rounded and fun than the bike right here, the 390 Duke. At first glance, the 2015 390 has all the looks of its bigger, slimmed-down version of the 690 Duke, with the classic orange and black KTM colors that add to its sporty style and matched with the frame and rims that make it really stand out. Now, I hate to class this Duke as a beginner bike. The name alone will turn most people off and not even look at it as an option, but let me dispel that thought from you right now. This is a serious motorcycle. The kind of serious that looks innocent till you find yourself in a dark alleyway about to get shanked for being overconfident. In some parts of the world, this bike is an outright monster and still needs to be treated with respect. Once seated on the Duke, it can be confused with riding a frame more akin to like a bicycle or dirt bike than a full-size motorcycle. With a wet weight of 338 pounds, it will make you feel like a hero through the twisties, wringing out the single-cylinder motor out to 11,000 RPM. All the while upshifting like a madman with transitions side to side so quick and light you barely have to put any pressure on the bars, let alone use any of your arm strength. But be wary ham-fisting the throttle, as the rear tire, I found out, will kick out if you go through water and, well, I was just being dumb and it slipped. Gave me a bit of a scare, but shows you that the Duke definitely has enough power to slide the rear out. Now, looking back at KTM's off-road heritage, the 375cc cylinder motor feels a lot like a 4-stroke dirt bike, but a little bit more friendly for the street. With 43 horses under the tank and 26 foot-pounds of torque, the Duke has plenty of power to pass on slow back roads or even reach 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds. The 100-mile top speed is achievable, but only while doing downhill and crouching over the 2.9-gallon tank tighter than a koala on a mama's back. If you ride like you enjoy the sport of motorcycling, you'll probably see fuel mileage in the high 30s to low 40s. The fuel gauge is a nice addition to the dash, but it also has a matter of range anxiety, as while I was riding, it would give me a reading of 16 miles to 0 in an instant. Fortunately, I was able to draft behind a Prius and make it to a gas station, but it was definitely not fun and a nerve-wracking experience. The digital dash is fairly simplistic. It has all the information needed, engine temp on the left, fuel gauge on the right. It even has a gear indicator, which is a pretty nice touch for something that would be called a budget motorcycle. The tachometer at the top is a bit small and hard to see at a glance, but in most cases, you'll be revving the 390 to the top of the rev band regardless, and you're not going to be looking down. The upright seating position allows for plenty of comfort for long rides, and this particular Duke has been upgraded to a more plushy seat for those delicate buns. From the ground to the seat is 31 inches, which will help the vertically challenged feel planted when coming to a stop and maneuvering at slow parking lot speeds. Even taller riders should feel at home perched on the flat seat, low pegs, and skinny gas tank. The front suspension is non-adjustable, but while I was spirited riding down the road, didn't feel overloaded for my 160-pound frame. Bumps in the road are felt, but not too harsh, and when kicking it up a notch through the twisties, the Duke felt pleasantly solid. Only in the occasional corner while braking hard was there this vagueness that I kind of felt from the lever, but on a bike this size, the brakes are more than adequate when coming to a stop quickly, with the added safety net of ABS. And speaking of the brakes, it is a single 4-piston front caliper matched to a 300mm rotor, and it's adequate for slowing down a light bike like this, but it's not going to throw you over the handlebars either, which, if this is your first bike, is a great thing. On a bike with this smaller stature, you should be focused on carrying speed through the corner, staying light on the brake lever as you barely put any pressure on the upright bars to lean in. Hit the apex, back on the throttle, keeping the Duke nice and thumpy on the way out. Throttle response is quick once you get the revs building after 4,000. Below that, it can be a little choppy, but paired with the short lower gears, I often found myself bouncing off the limiter in first gear, which feels like it cuts right in when the Duke is making the most amount of power. But with some practice, you'll be able to take most riders on bigger CC motorcycles off the line with the little Duke's impressive acceleration till about 40 to 50 miles per hour. Even though the new 2017 390 Duke has a sharper angled look of its big brothers like the 1290 Super Duke, the 2015 it still has an eye-catching, less polarizing design. The orange trellis looks sharp, the wheels that match, and the black accents are pretty cool. And as far as the headlight, it does a decent job illuminating the road, but don't expect too much wind protection from the small fly screen. So who should be looking at this bike? Anyone with a pulse, honestly. But more to the point, anyone looking for a solid entry bike that feels as easy as riding a bicycle. Or even for an experienced rider who wants to hoon around town and carve up the canyons, embarrassing bigger bikes along the way. I wouldn't recommend it for long touring rides, but that doesn't mean you couldn't put down at least 200 to 300 miles along a coastal road with ease. For the budget-minded, this bike has a great value without sacrificing too much quality. Yes, the levers feel a little cheap, and for heavier riders, the suspension can be squishy. My own niggles of the bike are far outweighed by the pros, but if I had to point out any flaws, the rev limiter kicks in before any dip in power, which without practice can catch you off guard. The fuel range is relatively low, but that's mostly caused to my tendency to wring the neck out of the 390 going out of every turn. Also, I wish you could put the bike in supermoto mode and disable the rear brake like you can on the newer models. If you're looking for a low cost, low insurance, low barrier to entry, with a low seat height, and has a bit of flair, you can't go wrong with the KTM 390 Duke. It'll also make you a better rider faster and safer. So as this could be many people's first motorcycle, get out, get riding, and get good. Because there's few things in life that are as nice as riding two wheels out on the road, but to do it well and to survive, it takes a lot of practice, patience, and a bit of luck. Ride safe, everyone.